About 6 months ago, I started playing around with Chat GPT and customized this for travel with a neurodivergent person in mind. I wanted to visit some beautiful places in Europe with lakes, and it suggested several wonderful ideas. Bled in Slovenia was on the list, and that's always been a place I thought sounded really fantastic. So with that in mind, I started thinking about cat sitting, and I managed to find a cat sit in Zagreb, Croatia, which I knew was nearby in maybe the same way that, people who don't live in the United States think that Los Angeles and Las Vegas is nearby. But I just thought, well, I'll apply and then we'll see what happens. I've been to Croatia before. It's really beautiful. I got the sit and I was able to start thinking about my trip. So this cat sit is 3.5 weeks, and I thought if I do that and add on Bled at the end, that should be a good length. It does seem like a long time, especially if you think that a lot of people in the world don't have a lot of paid time off. I'm only coming from London and I work remotely now, and I'll be cat sitting, so because of that, I'm not paying for accommodation. I'll also be cooking at their house and eating at home. The only thing I need to pay for are my flights and accommodation either side of the cat sit. So that's the destination ticked off, and the dates are ticked off in the sense that I know that I have that anchor where that cat sit is happening in Croatia. So the next thing I did was I popped over to TripAdvisor to get a sense of how long I might want to spend in Bled. But I also did some other Googling and to use that to determine how long I wanted to stay in Bled. And most places suggested maybe a couple days, and Ljubljana also a couple days. For Zagreb itself, I have so much time there. I'm not too worried about figuring it out. Like that 3.5 weeks, some of that I might be able to plan on the fly, but I will seeing if there's any excursions I want to book. So if I book ahead of time, just in case they're selling out, because the other thing I learned is that certainly for Bled, it's going to be very busy in the summertime. The next thing I did was go to Rome2Rio. I really like this website. It's very clearly organized, and it's easy to see what the various routes are between cities. I can see costs and everything like that. Bus, no, that's 30 hours, no. So there's lots of flight options from London because we have 4 airports. And then there's also trains, over 19 hours on a train, and that's if you make all the connections. I thought about it. I think it sounds really cool, possibly better for the planet. Well, definitely better for the planet, but ultimately, I think that would be just a little bit too much. I'd want to stop off, and then we're talking about adding additional days to because I'm heading to the cat sit, I want to get there on time. So, flying it is. The next thing I did was dig into the various flight options because it's hard to know without looking at what the various routes are. Like, look at this option. It goes via Bucharest and Belgrade. I mean, no. That's cute that they would show that to me. I'm ideally looking for something that's nonstop because we're not talking a huge distance here. It's showing me some crazy options like via Doha, 21 hours. The next thing I wanted to figure out is how to fit Bled and Ljubljana into this. So I added Bled first, and I thought, well, what would happen if I went there first? And of course, it's like flying via Ljubljana. Gosh, I hope I'm saying that correctly. I also discovered that Rome2Rio has different sort options. The default is departure time. That's not important to me. I don't do mornings, so cheapest, that's good. Cheap and fast, I prefer that. Plenty of options. At this point, I'm just trying to get a sense of the pricing. I kind of lost a little bit of patience with Rome2Rio, so I thought I'd just check over on Google Flights because they're really good about seeing pricing across the whole month. I switched this over to a multi-city trip because by this point I sort of figured if I've got to stop in Ljubljana anyway, then I may as well fly into one city and out of the other. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm looking to see what would it look like to fly into Croatia and out of Ljubljana. I also looked at some of the airline websites directly just to see what my options were. For Croatia Airlines, they don't always fly direct on every single day. So in this case, it was only Monday, Wednesday, Friday to Zagreb. So Unfortunately, that wasn't going to work because I need to be there on a different day. But good to know. I'm just playing around, seeing what options there are if I reduce the number of stops. Ryanair is an option. That's certainly one of the cheaper ones you could fly on. Also much more restrictive. Here I am playing with the filters because, like I said, I don't do mornings. It messes up my whole day. I'd rather pay a little bit more and sort of stay on the same sleep schedule. I looked at booking 2 single flights on 2 different airlines, but by this point I saw that British Airways had a nonstop flight. I fly with British Airways occasionally. I collect miles with them through the American Express Blue credit card. I thought, let's just do that. Book the flight, so that's sorted out. So now let's figure out what we're going to be doing while we're there. Zagreb is the capital city, and the Chat GPT gave me lots of great suggestions. I spent some time digging into the activities. For Lake Bled, the main one is the castle and Bled Island. Very picturesque. And I also asked it for some restaurants. I'm going to be traveling by myself, so I might go out in the evenings occasionally, but mostly I would be out in the daytime. So I've got some recommendations here, which I will be following up with additional review websites, but it's just nice to have a starting point. I asked what days and what time of day to visit Bled Castle because, again, it's going to be pretty busy. And predictably, it suggested that I go on weekdays or early in the morning or late in the afternoon. So my next question is, how does ticketing work? Because I've been to some places where the ticket would be good for a month or a year, but this is telling me it's only good for the one day. So, I mean, if it's near enough, I could go there in the morning and then come back later in that evening, but that's not going to work out, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And then I asked about craft beer, and I got a few suggestions. I also asked these exact same questions for Zagreb. I'm going to be following all of these up and see how accurate ChatGPT is. And I'm going to make a second video of my time while I'm there. Then, knowing a little bit more about what I'm going to be doing, I needed to set about booking accommodation. One idea is to plan your accommodation around your main activities. This doesn't apply to me in Zagreb because I'm there for the cat sit. I know it's in the city center. I don't know much more than that at this point. They told me they were moving apartments. So I haven't seen what the new one looks like, but I'm told it's nice. For Bled, though, I have a little bit more control. I'll be finishing a cat sit in the UK the day before I fly to Zagreb. To make life easier, I've just booked in one night at a hotel by Heathrow Airport. Then I needed to sort out my hotels for Ljubljana and Bled. The other night, I went into hotels.com that I've used extensively over the years. And because I'd been booking flights and my head was in June, I accidentally booked both the Ljubljana hotel and the Bled hotel for June. Oops. Thankfully, I caught my mistake straight away, and hotels.com was able to fix the booking for Bled, and I had to fix the other one. That simple 1.5 hours turned into more like 2 and a bit. So that's unfortunate. And also, prices in July are a lot higher than June. And I already thought June was expensive. I ended up asking ChatGPT about towns nearby Bled. Because at this point, I decided that one night at Ljubljana would be fine. Looking at the map, I can see the airport is actually kind of in between Ljubljana and Bled. I wanted to see how long it was going to take to travel between Ljubljana, Bled, and Zagreb, because I don't really want to arrive at a new place in the night by myself, although it's going to be middle of summer. The sunset is pretty late. So the final itinerary is 3.5 weeks in Zagreb, a Flixbus, probably, or even a train, to Ljubljana, and then a train. Okay, how to pronounce Radovljica. Okay.
Radovljica.
I'm going to need to practice that. Whoa, I was way off. Anyway, that's a town not that far from Bled. I think it's maybe 20 minutes on the train, and it's a little bit cheaper, but apparently it's beautiful. There's a gingerbread museum, and it's very medieval in the style of the building, so I'm looking forward to that. It should be a little bit calmer than Bled. I'm imagining now that Bled's going to be like hordes of tourists. And actually, it might be quite nice to escape from that. So I'm at 3 nights at this hotel in the town near Bled, 1 night in Ljubljana, and then I fly back to the UK. I will be going from the airport straight to my friend's house where I will stay 2 nights. Then they're going to Canada for 2 weeks and I'll be cat sitting for them. That's a good chunk of my summer. I'm looking forward to it. So all in all, it took me about 4 hours to figure out the dates I might be traveling, the routes I could take, the flights, booking the flights, and then another couple of hours figuring out hotels. And that includes my mistake of accidentally booking for the wrong freaking month. If you want to find out what happens once I get to Croatia and Slovenia to see if Chat GPT and any of the other recommendations I received are any good, please subscribe. I'd love to know if any of you have ever used AI to plan a trip. I'd like to know how that worked out for you.